Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love. This week, in our mini coaching session with Sylvan, we are chatting about people pleasing and how hard that is for some of us and what's behind it. Why are we so keen on making sure that everyone around us is comfortable and happy? What about me? Stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Cultivating Courage. We are glad you are here. I am Kristin Robinson, one of your hosts. I am the owner of Thrive Coaching Studio, and I help people explore who they are and live into that. I'm joined by your other host, Matt Maxwell.
Hi, I'm Matt Maxwell. I'm the founder and head coach at Hearthstone Coaching and Consulting, and I help people and organizations love their life and their work.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
We are joined again this week by Sylvan. Welcome.
Thank you.
And as you guys know, maybe
should we give a background? Sylvan of
Vera Capital, and that's my company. But I also have a YouTube channel called Intentional Wealth.
Intentional Wealth.
Yeah.
Yes. Google it. Search it.
YouTube.
Subscribe it.
It's a YouTube channel.
Where else are we on? Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
Yep.
places you
All of
should
them.
be.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys should definitely check out Sylvan's YouTube channel. You should also check out the previous episode here if you haven't already, because Sylvan talks more about intentional wealth in general and has a lot of good insight. So check it out.
Yeah.
If you haven't already. This week, though, we are doing a mini coaching session. So with that, what is coming up for you as?
So what is coming up for me is I think as I'm starting to build my brand, my company, the YouTube channel, I like fancy things. I'm going to buy them no matter what, right? But the way that social media works is to get the views, to get the attention, you kind of show off your fancy things. And I don't like necessarily showing it off, but I do realize that there is that fine balance of like, okay, I do need that attention. So like if I do buy my dream Ferrari or Bentley, I'm definitely going to have it videotaped and probably do an episode on that. But how do I come off as being genuine and not showing off and being like a douche, you know? So
Okay, so if I got this right, I would like to clarify how I show off my amazing car without looking like a douche.
yes. There you go. That's the one.
Yeah. So there's a conflict here, right? Of promoting a message that you're really passionate about and you think is important for people to hear through your channel, Intentional Wealth.
Right.
And that feels like a conflict to promote it by showing off your fancy things.
Right. Because it's not about what I have, right? It's about the journey to get to what I have. And that is what kind of is what I'm struggling with.
What is the like result of this conversation that you'd really like? Like, what would you really like to walk away with from this conversation?
I think what I would like, so I think this goes back to like maybe worrying about what people think, you know, and still trying to get over that little bit of hurdle. Because I think I'm pretty good with the rest of the areas in my life about that. But in this certain aspect of once I start to grow to a point, you know, it's like where I have more finances and it's going to happen. That's for sure. It's like, how do I get over that and not worry about like, okay, well, my best friend doesn't have a nice car, but I do, you know, and me driving around and feeling guilty about it. I guess it also goes back to the guilt of having success, you know, so if I can just get over that and walk away with peace of mind, I guess.
Peace of mind.
Yes.
that's outside of people's judgments.
Right.
And also, so it sounds like there are actually two things. One is like still this desire to like look a certain way, or fear of how I'll be judged or thought of by others. And then there's also, it sounds like, kind of an internal question mark around like not wanting to feel guilty about wealth, or what is that?
So I think this kind of goes back to like my dad and my relationship with him. He started talking to a bunch of family that he's never really had a close relationship with, because at one point when he went back to India, he was like, well, I'm kind of successful than they are now, you know, and I don't want them to think that I'm not talking to them because I'm successful, you know. And what I told him was like, well, where were they when we weren't successful, or when you weren't successful? So why does it matter now? You know? And I think I have a slight little bit of that. I don't want to come off as like, oh, well, he's that rich guy that he's too stuck up to talk to anybody. But inside, it's like, truly, I'm just shy and reserved. Like, I am scared talking to people at a networking event, and you think I wouldn't be, right? But that's just kind of who I am. You know, networking is still a thing I struggle with, but it's getting a lot better than where it was a year ago. But I think that I think it just goes back to that fear of what do people think. I'm not worried about like the path I've taken in my career, but like once I hit that successful point is maybe what I'm worried about. Because like, you know, for me, starting out at where I've been, and I've only lived that struggle, right? I know what I went through to get the things that I have. And I've kind of seen it in my parents, so I know it's going to happen in my life. If I buy a Bentley and I put it on my YouTube channel, it's definitely to get some views, but it's more about the story behind getting that Bentley that's more important than actually having the Bentley. Because my thing is, if everybody could have a Bentley, you know, it's like Oprah and you get a car, everybody gets a car. I would love that.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm all about sharing the wealth, you know, but...
I hear that. So there's this concern. It shows up in networking events a little bit. It shows up with like what you're imagining about the future. When I have my nice car, of what are people thinking about me, or what will they think, or what maybe are they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
What are you afraid they'll think?
I'm afraid that they will think that I'm just like this rich guy that trampled all over people to get to where I am. Because I feel like that is what we think about when people talk about the 1%. And truth be told, it doesn't take a lot to be in the 1%. Most people are probably in the 1% and don't even realize it, right? But we only think about billionaires being in the 1%, right? And so I think that is it. Because when we think about the 1%, we're like, oh, they do bad things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so I think that is the fear that I have, is people are going to think about me like that, you know?
Well, it's just occurring to me, like, one of the things that gets in the way of us living like the full dreams that we have, I think it's in wealth, but it's almost in anything. There's a way in which people resent people who are really successful in something.
Yes.
And I notice it for me. I resent some people who are really successful. And not just in money, but in lots of areas.
Right.
Where, like, people have these amazing family lives, and sometimes there's a place I go to where I'm like, well, isn't that just great for you? Which is crazy, because in my heart of hearts, I don't think that at all. I want everybody to have their dream life.
Right.
So then it's like, from there, it gets scary to think of us actually having the dream life, because then we'll be on the other end of that kind of judgment. Is that how it feels?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. That's how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And how would you like it to feel?
So I think I'd like it to feel like, so you have resentment sometimes when people are successful. I am the total opposite. If somebody gets successful, if they buy the new car, I am so happy about them. And the way I think about it is, what do I have to do to get that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how hard did he have to work? And the only time I get resentful is when somebody does something I don't necessarily agree with to get successful.
Oh.
You know, like I deal drugs or something.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, I don't like that. Not going to do it. But you're riding around in a nice house or a nice car. That's when I get resentful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there are a lot of business people that have really bad, shady practices. And that's when I get resentful, you know. But, and for me, it's like, I'm not going to do that. I have a standard of quality and service that I want to provide, or, you know, just a value that has nothing to do with taking advantage of other people. And I truly believe that you actually gain more money by giving back more, you know. But I feel like nobody's going to see it like that, you know.
So it's not so much your own like internal projection judgments.
Right.
But there is still a sense of like, even if I do this in a way that I really feel great about, people are going to judge me a certain way.
Right. And, you know, I think maybe now that, I mean, just talking about this, it's just coming up, is maybe intentional wealth was my way of giving back. Because I'm not going to sit down with you. I'm not going to coach you. I don't want to sell you a coaching program. That's not me at all. But maybe that's also my way of being transparent. So people know who I am and what I'm about as I'm getting successful. And they see the failures. So maybe that's my way of being transparent, you know, and putting it out there. That, look, I'm not that guy that you think I am.
Yeah, so there's a way in which everything you're up to is designed to make sure people still like you even when you're successful.
Everybody's got to like me.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to like me.
What is the impact of needing that in your life?
You know, I think for me, it's something that my wife told me the other day is by looking to have everybody like me, to be validated by everyone, I don't have enough time to give myself. You know, as I'm getting more and more successful, I realize that there are certain things that I used to do on a daily basis. I used to write a gratitude list every morning. That is like one of the most like important things that I do. And I love that sign that you have, I choose joy. Because at the end of my gratitude list, I kid you not, I choose happy is what I write. Right? But I don't do that anymore because I don't have time for myself, you know, and that is the impact that it's having. You know, we just went on a mini road trip for business purposes. I didn't give my time enough sleep, or I didn't give myself enough time to sleep. I probably slept the last few nights 4 hours a night, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because that's another thing I have a problem with is integrity to give myself time. But I have integrity to, if it's dependent on somebody else, I can totally have integrity.
Yeah.
You know?
Got it.
Yeah.
Because
if someone else is counting on
it's
you.
all
the
that
driving
like looking
thing is
back.
like, because I got to make sure they like me.
Right.
And I'm like, so then what gets prioritized is their expectations, their priorities. And it sounds like some of the impact of that is that like what actually I know I really need for me gets put on the back burner
Right.
in service of kind of satisfying other people.
Right. And I think my wife is pretty good at pointing that out. And I'm like, nah, that's cool. I'm good. You know, She's like, nope. And I'm like, no, I'm good. You know, but it's true because I give her enough time. And sometimes I feel like I don't, but I've asked her, you know, an open and honest conversation. Do you think I give you enough time? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. If there's anything we're struggling on, I will let you know.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, sometimes I feel like there's unsaid things in the relationship and you're kind of scared to ask your spouse, but you just got to ask them.
Yeah.
You know, like I did an interview with my wife just to like ask her, what do you think about me? And we're going out to dinner, and on the way to dinner, I'm thinking like, I'm scared to ask her because I don't want to throw off the mood. It's not like we're going to have a fight, but it was like the best conversation we ever had. I just went ahead and did it.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, in 4 years of knowing each other, the best thing. Because I realized that she totally thinks about me in a different way than I think she thinks about me.
Yes. Oh my God. If we could all get that.
Right?
That we don't actually know how other people see us.
Yeah.
We can't.
Unless we ask.
Well, we ask, and even then we can just get a better flavor for it, you know? But we can never really know. But you're right.
Yeah.
We can't ask. We can actually have open conversations about it. But to get that, like, what I'm afraid, it's like, I'm just imagining, like, the fear of what people will think when I do X, Y, or Z on YouTube.
Right.
What's the question you are afraid to ask yourself in all of this?
Oh, I don't know. One doesn't come up.
That's fine.
To mind.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it's just a cultural thing. The only thing I can think of is like, why do I care?
What do you see?
Because I feel like it's kind of like I think about people and what they're thinking about me. Mm-hmm. But in all honesty, they're probably not thinking about me. And it's like they have no value to my life. Like millions of YouTube followers I'm worried about, and I only have like, what, 54 subscribers, and I'm worried about the million.
Well, no, because some people are listening now. You probably got another 2.
At least another 200. Another
Our moms
200.
are now following you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, why do I care about what these people think? They add no value to my life yet. You know, at some point they will, but it's not at this time. So why am I worried about, 10 steps ahead when I should be worried about what's the next step?
And even when they do add value to your life, does that warrant worrying about what they think for you? I'm curious.
It shouldn't.
Well, that's the story. But you might actually step out of that story.
Okay.
I mean, so here's one way I would frame this. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I'd also want to normalize it. I definitely get run sometimes by needing to be liked.
Right.
And I think a lot of the human race does.
Right.
So it's not crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there is a model in which we can actually see a why. Mm-hmm. Right. It's like at some point when we were very young, we all got ideas about what we needed to do to survive. Mm-hmm. And for most of us, it makes sense that one of those things we started to learn was I need to be liked by the people around me.
Right.
And there was actually a survival purpose in it.
Right.
I need to make sure my parents like me.
Right. I need to make sure they don't leave me somewhere.
Right. And there's like it makes sense that our organisms would be like, I'm good if people like me. Even if you go back like 50,000 years to your tribe, it's like your survival did actually depend on fitting in.
Right.
You know? And now we're lucky that our survival doesn't really depend on it. So we could, in a therapy session, you could explore more of like, when exactly did I get this thing of like, I got to make sure people like me. We don't need to go there. But there's, I imagine, some really good reasons that your organism started making sure that you were liked by people. It was important at some point. Mm-hmm. And so we all have these automatic ways of seeing and being and kind of filtering what we're up to. Like you said, it's almost automatic that like I'll just do something when I know someone else expects it at my own expense. Mm-hmm. And there's probably a point in your like very early development that made sense, so that you would be liked and get your needs met. Mm-hmm. So taking the judgment out of it, right? There's nothing wrong with you for needing or wanting that. Mm-hmm. It just may be getting in the way of the life you want.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so then what there is as a possibility, and I hope listeners, you're picking up that we're talking not just about this particular survival mechanism of like needing to be liked, but almost anything that we see is like, it's getting in my way.
Mm-hmm.
If you can take out the judgment, first of all, that there's something wrong with you for relating to the world that way.
Right.
It's hard to do any kind of transformation when you're like, why am I so messed up?
Right.
But if you could look at, there's nothing wrong with it, and yet it seems to be impacting my life in a way that I don't want.
Right.
Does that track? What do you see?
I think it does, because, for me being an entrepreneur, I think in the financial sense of things, and this is like going back to our last episode of like, people worried about their finances, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. So take the judgment out of like, oh my God, I'm not a financial success, or I'm not like them, where they could be just as messed up or worse off than you are. They just make it look better, So yeah, I think that does make sense to me, is like, I got to take the judgment out of it and stop, I think, judging myself. Like my wife will tell me I'm the least judgmental person, but to other people, right? But when it comes to myself, oh, am I critical? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you didn't do this today. Oh, she's going to be mad. Well, she's like, at least he cleaned the house, but he didn't load the dishwasher. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But she'll be like, house looks clean. Oh, and you cooked dinner?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but I just got to stop being so critical, I guess, on myself.
What's the opportunity you see for you in that?
The opportunity I see in that is, I think all my relationships are pretty good, but as far as a business sense, I could probably move my business further along and faster if I just stopped worrying about it.
What do you mean?
Because when I go to a networking event, like I've told you in the last video, I don't think of myself as being successful, right? And so when I go to a networking event, I get put off by a big title or something that sounds fancy or whatever. And I'm like, why would that person want to talk to me? Why would they want to give me the time of day? Whereas I am the total opposite person. If you have a question for me, I'm totally open to it. Let's set up a time to talk, or let's talk right now for a couple minutes. But for me, I keep feeling like I'm this little fish in a big pond, where to most people, when I talk to them, it's like I'm a big fish in a big pond or a medium-sized fish. It's like I put everybody else on this altar, but not myself. And I think that's the possibility, is like, when I start engaging with people, doors open, because now people know who I am, what I'm about, what I want to do. And just talking with them, deals have come my way. Opportunities have come my way. This coffee shop deal, if I didn't talk to the partners that I did, this wouldn't have come up. But it was one of those moments where like, okay, I'm kind of scared to talk to them. They seem really smart. But in all honesty, they had nothing, where else I had the finances. But they were able to bring the work. And it's a great trade-off. And now listening to their story, they were more like scared of networking also, or they were scared of networking also, but we broke that ice together and we've made this beautiful deal. So
you see an example of a time where just having conversations really made a huge difference for you.
Right.
And that by letting go of some of the self-judgment or that view of like everybody else is something I'm not, or something like that, letting that go might free you up to have more conversations that would empower your life.
Yes, I think so.
And how does that self-judgment piece, how does that relate to the needing to be liked dynamic we were talking about?
I think it just goes back to being, okay, so I'm an only child. And so all I did was hang around adults, right? And so, being around kids my age and stuff like that, it was a great thing. I always wanted to be like, I didn't want to be the center of attention, but I wanted everybody to like me, And I think the self-judgment piece in there is like, okay, if I don't play nicely with these kids, they're not going to like me. So I'm a non-confrontational person just by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's come up from when I was a child. But I've noticed that I've gotten certainly confrontational in certain things. Like a car dealership. A salesman tried to take advantage of me at a car dealership. And I got really confrontational with him. And my dad's looking at me like, we're driving home. We didn't buy the car. And my dad's looking at me like, today you are my son. And I'm like, what? Because I got mad? But, that judgment of like, even like self-expression
Mm-hmm.
in certain situations. Because what if the dealer won't like sell me the next car at the price I want? What do I care? There's a million cars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely one of those things.
Mm.
You keep thinking that every relationship is important, I think. That self-judgment of like, if I'm not liked, I might miss out on something. But you're going to miss out anyway, because you can't be everywhere, right? But I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
You can't get it wrong.
Oh. So just like business, there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah. It's just what's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing and what might be helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. You got something? I got more.
No, I had something, but it's
Gone. Yeah.
Yep. It
Okay.
tends to happen in these episodes.
Let's see. I guess then I'm curious, what are you getting so far from our conversation that you want to take with you? And what would you like to get from the rest of our conversation?
I think what I'm getting so far is I'm really good at saying, like, don't worry about what other people think, but I'm still thinking about it, but I'm not living that, and I need to live that, I need to get it out of my head and just be like, and go out about my day. If I can't meet you, I can't meet you because I got to do my gratitude list. It's not going to work for me. If I got to push the meeting back 2 or 3 weeks, and it's not like something important, then I got to push it back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does worry me a little that, and I don't necessarily tell my wife about this, but I think she might be on to something when she says you're not giving yourself enough time, that I'm getting stretched too many places, and the more and more business picks up, it's going to reach a breaking point, and I need to start setting boundaries now. I need to start putting up walls and borders in a sense, but I think that's, that it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think with being transparent and all that on the YouTube channel, as much as I can be, maybe it's still good to be like, you don't necessarily need to know about this because that's my private life. I think some celebrities are like that. Not that I'm a celebrity, but I think it's important to start doing that now so that when the time comes, I can be ready for that.
Gotcha. So there's an opportunity you see to actually start to really set some boundaries and limits so that you're cared for.
Right.
You're getting what you need in your life.
Right.
Where we kind of distinguish that there's an automatic place that you come from, which is like making sure everybody else is kind of liking you and happy with you. Where would you come from? What mindset will you come from that will allow you to actually set the boundaries and limits that you need?
I think the mindset that I need to come from is that I need to come first. Right? I need to take care of myself first. And I think that's the mindset I'm not coming from. Because if I can't take care of myself first, then how am I going to take care of everything else, right? So I think that's the mindset.
Why bother?
Why bother? I think that's already the mindset I'm coming from, is Why bother? Right. Why bother taking care of myself first?
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm actually wondering,
Right.
what do you see? Why would you bother with taking care of yourself?
I think for mental peace of mind,
Mm-hmm.
mental health,
Mm-hmm.
even like physically. I'm on the road all the time. I eat bad, you know? I don't think I've cooked a meal in my house in the last 3 months,
Mm.
you know? I mean, my wife's done a lot of cooking, but when she's not around or I'm on the road, I eat bad, you know? And I think that's why I should bother about it.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I need to be there for my wife. You know, I don't want to leave her a widow. I'm already starting to face like health problems in my 40s that I probably shouldn't be facing.
Can I just mention something that occurs to me as interesting?
Mm-hmm.
If we're really looking at what's going on there,
Mm-hmm.
is that when I asked you why bother, it ultimately came around to for my wife.
Right.
Which is still in the same thing of like, I need to do this for other people.
You know, like even when I think about like working out, for instance, I always tell her, you know, I want to work out so I can eat more. I don't care about the weight. I just want to be healthy enough so I can eat the food I want to eat.
Uh-huh.
You know, because like now I'm like this pre-diabetic stage and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, I can't eat the carbs that I want or the sugar that I want. You know, and all the best food is like the bad stuff for you.
I agree.
Right? It's like, why bother? But yeah, I get it. So,
I mean, do you get it? I don't know if I made it communicated in a way, but it was like still in the background of taking care of yourself was actually taking care of other people.
right.
And that might be okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But what we're getting at is like, why would you actually see? It seems like that's still within the pleasing other people.
Right.
And maybe there's power in that. It may not be wrong. I guess I just want to say something that I wouldn't normally say in a coaching conversation,
All right.
which is, how do I say this? I get the sense that somewhere in there's a story that you don't matter.
That you're not worthy.
Wow. I think that could totally be it.
What do you see?
As a child, just never being picked on, or I mean, being bullied
Uh-huh.
because I didn't have the right clothes or the whatever. My parents were too poor. I wasn't that great at sports, except maybe contact sports. But then I never got picked first. You know, always picked last. Pretty much failed my way through school. And wow. You know, I did all the things that a culturally accepted Indian kid doesn't do.
Mm.
Have a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
not finish college, not have a successful job, income. And it's like, maybe I don't matter because I don't hit these things. I'm not doing the culturally accepted things. So, you know, maybe if I'm helping you finish school or helping you get somewhere in life because you're doing the culturally accepted things,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's why I don't matter. Because at least I can be liked.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't matter in anything else, at least I can be liked.
Mm.
At least somebody can say, well, Sylvan was a nice guy. Right? Wow. Maybe that's why I worry about legacy too much.
Mm.
Leaving something behind. Wow.
What are you getting? What is this? How is this meaningful to you?
I think it's meaningful in a way that sometimes we get into this. It's good to be unselfish. Like I think one thing that I'm looking at right now is like, we teach our kids to share, right? But we also say, like, if somebody cuts in line in front of us, we want our kids to be first to get served, right? And I talk about kids like I have kids because I have like 25 cousins, and they're like all younger than, and most of them are younger than me. And then I have lots of friends with kids. So I'm always around kids. I love them. And so it's like we have this thing of like, we want our kids to be unselfish and to share, but at the same time, we secretly want them to be selfish. But we don't teach them that. Right? So what I'm getting is like, okay, I'm being unselfish and I'm being good by like being worried about other people first, but there's actually nothing wrong in being selfish a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That taking care of yourself isn't bad.
Right?
Yeah. If being unselfish is good, then being selfish must be bad.
Right.
But maybe it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have an agenda. I'm just going to confess to it.
All right.
And my agenda is that you live from the story that you matter. And not at the expense of anyone else.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That those two things are separate and unrelated.
Okay.
So let's circle back. We looked at the impact of always needing to be liked,
Mm-hmm.
the possibility of like the story underneath that,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, maybe I don't really matter unless I'm liked.
Right.
Maybe there's some other opportunities for you to set kind of boundaries and actually come from life from a place of your own inherent worth.
Mm-hmm.
How does this relate to the question? Let's circle back to Bentley and YouTube. What do you see from our conversation that might apply to that?
I think what comes from that is it's okay to own it. It's okay to do it. You haven't walked my path. So why should I feel guilty for having it? You know, so I think that's where the selfish, unselfish thing comes in
Mm-hmm.
for. Like, I feel bad you don't have it. So maybe I should feel guilty for having it. And I would like you to have it. So I'd like it to help you, but maybe you don't want to have it. Maybe you don't want to be helped. Maybe you're just fine at where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's sometimes like when I got into this real estate game, you wanted to tell everybody about, wow, there's a whole different way to live life financially. And nobody wants to hear it. It's like spreading a great message, and you realize not everybody wants to hear it. And you're not going to change the world per se by everybody owning real estate. But, you know, the people you can help are the people you want to spend time with, or that start to have the mindset that you do. But I think what it is like, you know, I just have to be okay with, you're not going to have a Bentley, but I am. But if you'd like to drive it, come over. You know,
I love it. What one thing for you do you want to remember to take from this conversation?
I think the thing that I need to take away from this conversation is that I do matter. Because I've never thought about it like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to take that too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's great for everyone
Yeah.
to remember and to take on.
Yeah, and what occurs to me for us and for the listeners is that seeing ourselves that way is simply a matter of choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just an interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it feels much more satisfying and good to live from.
All right.
I matter. And choosing from there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
This
Kristin,
is,
what do you want people to take from the conversation?
I think that it's a hard choice. Like to recognize, like, it is a hard choice to not always please people. But that pleasing people and being true to yourself and taking care of yourself are not collapsed on top of each other, but that they're two separate things. I think that's probably what I'm taking away
Right.
from this, is that I can be true to myself and still be unselfish.
Right.
Yeah.
Care for others too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us,
No,
Sylvan.
thank you. This was very
People can
insightful.
find you again at your YouTube channel,
Yes.
Intentional wealth.
Wealth. Correct.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yep. Great conversation. All right, you guys, that's a wrap, and we will see you next week.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'm Matt Maxwell. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media, or learn about coaching with me at thisishearthstone.com. And please check out my book, How to Hold a Cockroach, now available through Amazon. You can connect with Kristin on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, that's Kristin, or find her upcoming workshops at thrivecoachingstudio.com. Please subscribe to us wherever you listen and leave a great review. And don't forget our practice for the week. Consider the possibility that you matter and practice choosing what you'll take on in your life from there. We'd love to hear how it goes in the comments section wherever you listen, or leave us a note at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com.